We will call the August 11th, 2022 Danby Select Board meeting to order. Would you please rise and join me to pledge the flag? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Clerk, would you please call the roll?
Abbott.
Here.
Haines. Fuller.
Here.
Powers. Bender.
Here. And Beth, would you please read the procedure for remote access?
Remote access to select board meetings, while not required by law, is offered in order to encourage access and participation for as many of our town's citizens as possible. It is understood that a select board meeting is a meeting open to the public, but not a public meeting per se. Business is conducted and votes are cast by board members. Therefore, public attendees, in person or remote, who wish to comment on an agenda item when it is addressed in the course of the meeting, should indicate such intention during the public comment period at the beginning of the meeting. To maintain order as well as the efficiency of the meeting, the rules for remote attendee participation are, I'm going to let another person in. Number 1, remote attendees will be muted by online host upon joining the meeting, remaining so unless recognized to speak. And I'm going to ask that the online participants please make sure their names are easily identifiable, both first and last name. Number 2, intention or desire to speak in order to comment or ask questions will be indicated by use of the hand-raising function on the remote platform. People will be recognized in the order in which the hand-raising function is activated. Online host will alert the chair to the presence of remote questions or comments. Remote participants, when recognized, will unmute their device and identify themselves with clearly spoken first and last names. Comment or question will be limited to 2 to 3 minutes, after which participant will be muted. General ground rules concerning decorum remains the same as that which is expected of citizens, guests, and board members attending in person. Namely, the speaker will not be interrupted and will not interrupt other speakers. The speaker will treat the proceedings and other speakers with dignity and respect, addressing the issue and not personalities. And procedures for the use of this online platform and the above standards will be reviewed at the beginning of each meeting, which we have just done.
Thank you, Beth.
You're welcome.
Stephanie, we saved a chair for you up there because you'll be dealing with that map that we have up on the wall. So if you'd like to be right there next to the printer and next to Michael. Okay, I'll entertain a motion to set the agenda as presented.
I guess the only thing I can see is we probably don't need to do anything on Dan Jets since
so
we
we'll
haven't looked at that yet.
Strike that.
What do you want?
We are striking the motion to approve Daniel Jez's driveway permit since that has not been reviewed at this time. Is there a motion to set the agenda?
I'll make the motion.
Is there a second?
I'll second that.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? Any other additions, deletions? Hearing none, all those in favor, please say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Okay, moving into public comment.
No one is indicating the need for public comment at this time. Oh, here's a public.
I just wanted to bring up something at the election the other day, that we had quite a few people complain at how hot it was in here all day long. I would just like the select board to consider maybe heat pumps or some other form of air conditioning and heating in here to, make things more comfortable.
Yeah, I have put that down.
Oh, okay, all right, I didn't know that. but
Old business. I'll probably get chastised for that.
Well, I just,
do it anyway.
I just wanted to bring that up. That's
Has it been discussed before?
Yes.
Then it's old.
Several years ago. Any other public comment? Okay, moving right along, I will entertain a motion to adopt the minutes of the select board meetings of July 14th, 22nd, and 30th.
I'll make a motion to accept them.
Is there a second?
I didn't attend the 14th, so 30th I was there.
Well, I guess I'll second it then. Is there any discussion in the form of corrections? Hearing none, all in favor of adopting the 3 sets of minutes, please say aye. Aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously. It was my understanding that Shelley Taylor would be here to report on some recent activity. I do not see her. Drea, did you have?
I can, I thought she was going to be here as well, but, just let me make a note of when Haines got here. Okay, so the planning commission met last week, and we had a presentation by Samantha Pierce, kind of explaining to us what a cannabis coalition is, and what the benefit is for Danby to kind of appoint a group of people to act as that. She said right now, everything that, like if somebody were to want to open a cannabis shop in Danby, everything goes to the state, whether it's approved or denied. The only power the town would have would be to have an open dialogue and to enforce any zoning or regulations that we already have established. So then,
Not to cut you off, I thought that's what we voted on last year was on that, and it was turned down.
No, it's passed.
Danby turned it down.
Danby turned down being able to have.
I was under the impression it passed.
I thought it was voted down.
I
Yeah.
thought it was also voted down.
Yeah.
So what would that mean if it was voted?
Well, I thought, see, the state gave us, had all the towns put that on their ballot. Do you know
Yeah.
any more about this then?
What's that?
Are they cannabis, proposal?
No.
Okay.
No. This is about forming a cannabis commission of some kind?
So if you want to take over, Kelly.
Come over here. So Sam Pierce came to our meeting last week, and the state is issuing cannabis license for cannabis retail. I don't know when that starts, you know, if it's this year, next year, when. But they would like the towns to form a cannabis commission. It's a CCC, and I have the paperwork that Sam gave us. I'll leave it with you guys. And I guess the main benefit of forming this commission is that you get pre-notification of who the state is issuing a cannabis license for cannabis retail in your town before. You know, otherwise, if you don't have a commission, the way I understood it is that they just issue the licenses. And the first time you might hear of it is when, hey, we're gonna sell cannabis in your community.
See, I'm really confused now because that's what the state had us put on our ballot for, not last year, but the year before.
Oh, you're before?
Not town meeting of this.
And
I remember voting.
And that was for every municipality to decide whether they were gonna allow cannabis sales in there. And Danby was one that voted it down, so I guess I'm confused on, after we voted it down, does that mean that the state didn't listen to what we voted, or?
Would that
Well, it was on the ballot.
surprise you?
It was on the ballot in March to legally sell.
Right, and I thought.
Okay, I've got Samantha Pierce here with her hand raised, and maybe she
Okay.
can enlighten us about this, so.
Hi, thank you. Thank you so much for explaining, and Shelley. So, in the past town election, Danby did opt in to allow retail sales of cannabis. It was only by 19 votes, but we did opt in. And so cannabis retailers are able to apply to start or to have a shop in town. And so this Cannabis Control Commission is kind of a new concept. The state Cannabis Control Board is kind of building the plane while they're flying. And so they've offered this ability for the towns to select a CCC, which, as Rhea said, would allow us to have discussion with the retailers, and if there was any zoning or nuisance, I'm sorry for the word, but we could have a conversation with them about that. However, since we don't have nuisance ordinances, since we don't have those, this CCC would allow us to be notified, as Shelley mentioned, prior to their application being approved. So all retailers in the state submit their application first to the Cannabis Control Board at the state level, and they decide whether or not they're approved. This CCC would then be notified, like, hey, this retailer is going to come to town, and that would allow us to open a conversation with that business. We really don't have any, the state's not giving us any control over anything other than making sure it's not located within the 500 feet buffer zone of schools. But we don't know what control the state would give us in the future, so it's just a benefit to get our name. We'd be one of the first in the state to have a CCC, so that we have, I don't know, at least a heads up of who's coming to our town and selling, and have more, we'd have a better pathway of contact with the state level CC board. So the process is simple. Small towns similar to ours, I've spoken to a couple like Johnson and Follett. They've decided that the select board is best to be the CCC right now, just because we're a small town and there aren't really any additional tasks associated with it. We just sign the document, send it to the state saying, hey, let us know when someone's applying to open in Danby, and then we get that information. So that's what it is right now. I think when I first had the conversation with you, there was some discussion about additional licensing income that we'd have. The state has decided that just any municipality in the state that receives an application will receive, so we'd receive $100 per application. I hope I didn't make that confusing, but if you have any questions, please let me know.
What's the total cost of the application?
We wouldn't incur any cost.
Right, but you're saying we get $100 of the application fee?
Yes, for every.
And how much then goes to the state? So the application fee is going to be more than $100?
Oh yes, it's at least $1,000. I know there's additional fees. The state gets quite a bit. I wish that we had more control and more say of what the state is doing right now. But this meager task or ability to have a CCC is what we can do right now, where our select board's going to be it, and then they can notify us whenever an application comes in. So we have that pathway of communication.
So the select board doesn't have a say like on a liquor license? Are the final rules printed, Samantha?
Yeah, there are a couple of guiding documents that the CCB has come out with. I can drop off some copies of that, so you can review it or just email it to you. It's pretty limited what towns can do. Even if we had zoning and other ordinances, if we turn down an application, the state would come back to us and really nudge us to change the decision. I don't love the way that the state is doing things, if you can't tell that I'm speaking about it, but that's why I'm bringing this CCC up to you all, so that at least we can say that we're doing the absolute most that we can at this time. So really what the next step is, if we want to have a CCC in Danby, is we'd sign a formation document, and I've created a sample. I'm not sure if that's included. That is provided to us from the state. I'd have all the selectmen sign it. We send that up to the CC board at the state level, and then they'd acknowledge our existence and would send us a heads up whenever a retailer bought to open shop in town.
Is there a time frame on this? Like, could we put this on next month's agenda without endangering anything?
So applications weren't supposed to until October, but they had they moved up the deadline, so applications started opening last Wednesday, I believe. But I mean, at this point, I guess a month really doesn't hurt too much, so we could wait.
So would you gentlemen like to put this on the agenda for September?
I believe we should.
Yeah, I agree.
Sound good? Okay.
Thank you, Samantha.
Thank you, and please let me know if you have any additional questions, or I will print out any guidance that I find and bring it to you.
Great, thank you.
Thank you.
So, any other news, Shelley?
No, that was it.
Okay, thank you.
The only addition I have to that is, like Samantha said, among the planning commission, we thought that the selectmen would be the best to form that commission, if you decide to do that.
The bugs were unbelievable.
The Bucks?
Somebody's not muted, but it says they all are, so I don't understand.
That was in it.
Yeah. That was it.
Okay, thank you, Shelley and Samantha. We will move on to the Bennington County Conservation District presentation, which is going to be given by Michael Fernandez.
Good evening, everyone, and thank you all for taking the time to listen to this quick little presentation. Bennington County Conservation District, in partnership with the Pulteney Meadowy Conservation District and the Lake Champlain Basin Program, started working on a grant to replace an undersized culvert preventing aquatic organism passage on Green Hill Road. I am relatively new to the project, I'm relatively new to the position, but I'll try and answer as many questions as I can with this presentation. We have narrowed down our best options, and you can turn to the last 2 pages of the packet I just handed out for pricing and specs, to an aluminum arch bridge and a steel stringer bridge that would eliminate both the aquatic organism passage impediments and also reduce in-stream and bank erosion on the Purchase Brook at that location. They're out of the 2 primary options. The price tags are coming out to $429,000, $429,900 $1,300 for the aluminum arch bridge and $301,400 for the steel stringer bridge. Both are generally acceptable as far as the project objectives of removing those impediments and also to current regulations regarding roads in the state. I have been working very closely with Stone Environmental. Their chief engineer on the project is Gabe Bolin, and Hillary Solomon, district manager of the Pulteney Meadowy Conservation District, who I believe I am in her territory right now, not my own. These are rather pricey options, but they are the ones that we've kind of narrowed down to as far as what's going to be applicable to this site location. I don't have a whole lot of specifics on the pluses or minuses. I'm not an engineer. We would like to extend an invitation to either the entire board or an individual member to come out to the site with myself and Mr. Bolin to go over some of the finer details on the site. But I wanted to come here to give you guys an update. I know that we had previously been in touch with y'all regarding this project and its progress. Sorry for the lack of detail, but I'm mostly here to answer any questions you guys might have and concerns you might have regarding the cost of the project. We have identified several potential partners, primarily the Department of Environmental Conservation and VTrans as primary funding sources for this project. Chiefly we'll probably have to cobble together from a couple of different grant sources in order to get it completely funded, largely from either the Municipal Grants and Aid Program, the Better Roads Program, or the Municipal Highway and Stormwater Program. I'll give you a second to kind of skim over.
Now, when they came to us with this originally, they were basically, had suggested it. And I guess not to, you had called it an undersized culvert. We have never had that culvert have a problem ever. So I guess maybe if you take the water area and stuff, you could call it a undersized culvert when you use the engineering maps. But as far as a road hazard or an issue, it's never been. It's actually in really good shape.
Correct.
So when they had originally come to us, it was one of them things that we said, if it's not costing the taxpayers any money, but it's almost sounding to me like we're using either some of our credit with the state, meaning the structures grants type things, or something for a project that I don't know why we, other than I think it's part of what the Purchase Brook group wants to accomplish, that they're now kind of trying to get the town to participate with money on this. And that's kind of a, we were clear on that a year ago, I think. I'm trying to think of the person who came to us with that.
Would that have been Katie Crumley?
Yes. It could have been Katie, yes. And so I guess what I'm bringing up right now is the fact that it sounds like a whole different project when the town's really, it's not, that culvert's probably never going to wash out or deteriorate in any of our lifetimes. So for us to jump on board and say, yeah, we want to now apply for grants here and there, I guess I'm looking for more explanation where the town's gaining on this. Yeah.
Well, from what I understand, and again, I'm pretty new on this particular project, one of the main benefits is going to be towards when you all have to eventually replace that culvert at some point in the future, you're going to have to go to full stream width. And by going and partnering with the conservation districts and the Lake Champlain Basin program, we will be able to, in partnership with you, because we'll also be spending our capital with the state, eliminate the vast majority of the cost to the taxpayer. And it will also have side benefits of not having as much in-stream and bank erosion, because when that culvert gets overwhelmed, although while it's not flooding into the roadway, it is causing more erosion in the channel, which eventually leads to maintenance costs. Our primary objective in this is improving aquatic organism passage for trout, more access to headwater habitat, and reducing the in-stream erosion. So that's my and my organization's.
Well, I think that's a great thing, but still, the town has plenty of other structures, is all I'm bringing up, that we really could use our capital on, or our credit with the state as far as, and so that's probably the harder thing for us to do, is if it had some sort of failure to it, or was rotting, or something that we could say, hey, this is gonna be in the next 5 years, this thing is gonna be needed to done, so why not start it now with you guys? And but that's a hard sell right now. And so I think the funding is probably more something you guys are gonna have to try to put together if this project really can get some steam.
Okay, that is, from what I understand, our objective is to minimize the cost to you guys, both through all the grants I listed were 20% matches, and what we would try and do, Hillary and myself, would be to patch together grants to both be the match and to be the major source of the funding.
So the grants you would be looking for would not count towards or
Yes,
against
they
the
would.
count? They would?
Yeah, those there are ones that we apply for anyways.
Okay, I didn't know
So,
if you was
and that's
gonna
what's my concern, is that if we used them on that project, that then if we had another one, that we would not be able to do the one that maybe the culvert's actually collapsing or something.
I didn't know if he'd be looking at like fish and wildlife.
Well, they had some great options. I thought even, was it, and I don't want to throw out which ones they had brought up to us before that we're going to fund it. So I guess, just to reiterate, and I don't want to speak for the entire board, but I'm just saying, we think it's a good project, but the funding of it really has to be, let's go back to almost 100% on you guys instead of on us.
Yeah, so at this point, these are our 60% designs. We still have another design rounds to go through. And largely what we're looking for in this meeting, and perhaps with you all coming out to view the site, is to kind of pick which option works best for this community, which project type would work best. And then we would be able to go to our funding partners and game all of this out. These are largely pretty pie in the sky estimates at this point. With inflation, these estimates were made almost a year ago. So we're going to have to go do another round of estimates. Yeah, we're going to have to go do another round of estimates, and that's not likely to go down significantly at any point in the future that I can foresee. So we're not at the point of even looking for funds yet. We're really looking for, what do you guys want if we can make this happen? Steel stringer or aluminum arch, so we can then go to our funding partners and say, this is what they want, let's see how we can make this happen. And then it may or may not be able to happen depending on the availability of funds. But from my perspective, asking the town for funds is an absolute last resort. We're trying to eliminate as much of that as humanly possible.
Something stuck out to me. In-stream erosion.
Yes.
Now, projecting, and I know this is crystal ball type stuff, but in-stream erosion, how would that affect the viability of this culvert in the future?
So I'd be a lot more comfortable with Hillary Solomon answering that question. She's much more qualified to answer that. But as more high erosion events occur, it is likely that the side banks and the in-cut that's beneath the culvert are going to expand significantly.
So that could
It could
lead to the
eventually-
failure of the culvert at some point in the future.
Yes, I'm not trying to be catastrophist in any way,
No, no,
but
no.
it's possible that, say, another large storm event like Irene comes through
I live
and
there. I live up on that
yeah,
area, so I'm
yeah,
well
you
aware.
can. It's not hard to foresee the possibility that if we get hit with another big hurricane, that the culvert's at about, I believe it was about 8.5 or 9 feet width, and stream width is 21 feet. So in another really high precipitation event,
It's going to, it
you
could
could
possibly.
you could see some either undermining or it's a really deep gully into that stream.
It is.
It's not likely that it's going to break that particular bank, but it will likely cause more damage that you would otherwise anticipate from normal precipitation, which we're seeing less and less of. So I don't know if that.
Have we had to do any maintenance on that one?
No, that one, I think it was put in like the mid-80s.
Is that the one by Skelly's?
Right on the corner, the last turn
The
there.
big culvert at the
Yeah.
bottom of the hill.
Yep, okay.
Yeah.
Just to be clear on where it is.
Yeah, I don't even think, I mean, you never remember having to fix the head wall because that
Not the
was,
head wall, we fixed around it when we had Irene, but it wasn't there, it was on either side of it.
yeah.
So it wasn't actually, it was, running down the ditch on either side.
Right, because
That's
of
what
the
damage
meadows from above where that,
Yeah.
yeah.
But as far as the culvert went, that was fine, so.
No, and I mean, I think there's a lot of good points, that it would be nice to, but I guess I just wanted to bring up the point of when it was first brought to us, the funding was basically zero on our part, and we said that we think that's a great idea. It almost sounds like now we might be looking at some match money or using some of our credit of
We would be-
grants that we would apply for other structures.
The conservation districts, either Poultney Meadowy or Bennington, would be applying for these grants. And if we couldn't get a full amount with an individual grant, we would cobble together other grants from other sources, whether they be Fish and Wildlife, DEC, V-Trans, in order to reach that funding level. We really just, before we move forward, we wanted to consult with the board
On one or two, or one of
on the
these.
options and which you guys think would be the best possible option for your community.
And when would you like us to give you an answer on, on these? I mean, we could bounce them around each other, but I don't think today's the meeting is.
October, November, when you guys get to the point of making a decision on it. We have, as I'm sure you guys can imagine, we have a rather full plate. So as things arise on the to-do pile, I get sent out to talk to the community. I've only been on the job for about 6 months, so this hit my
No, we
desk.
appreciate the in-person
this
showing
hit my
up. It's a
desk.
lot easier to get things done if you do spend the time to come here.
This hit my desk as a pretty high priority project, so I'm following up and getting some community input before I take my next step of going to our environmental consultant and saying, okay, we need 90% designs on the Stringer Bridge or the aluminum arch, before we can, and then we can move forward to discussing this with funding partners.
Okay, we'll schedule that for the October agenda.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you for taking the time to drive up here.
Very happy to be here.
Any other questions before Michael leaves? Any hands up?
No, but I missed someone who didn't know how to do the hand raise and sent me a chat message before, but I didn't see it, and it's Vedanta, and she would like to speak about the cannabis issue. Do you want to hear that now, or? Okay. Vedanta? Are you still there?
Yes, am I'm here.
Yay,
Can you hear me?
yes, we can, thank you.
Great. So, on July 20th, the Cannabis Control Board had motored through applications, approved 100 licenses, and those were issued. One of them was to somebody in Danby.
Okay, but you don't know who that was?
Oh, I do. It's Rootland Cannabis.
Rutland Cannabis?
No, Rootland. R-O-O-T.
Oh, Rutland.
L-A-N-D.
Okay, I get it.
What's this lady's last name?
Vedanta, what's your last name?
Griffith.
Griffith. Thank you.
Sorry.
No problem.
So you're saying the state approved an application?
No, they issued a license.
They issued a license.
Correct. And I got that in an email about a week and a half ago, and I was a little surprised to see that there was, although I don't know why I'd be surprised, but there is an actual application and license, application approved and license issued for Rootland Cannabis.
Did they give an address for that?
They sure did. 2720 Tinmouth Road, Chris Vickers. And the licenses that have been issued are listed on the state website.
Now, and I don't expect you to know all the rules, but I am gonna ask, since you did give us the good information, so that is active or in?
It's active, so they've gone through and they've issued all Tier 1 and Tier 2 licenses. Tier 1 is indoor cultivation and Tier 2 is indoor and outdoor.
So
and his was a Tier 1.
Is it just a growing license?
So it's an indoor growing license or ability to sell too?
Growing license.
Growing. So just to ask it again, that doesn't give them the option. And if you don't know, I'm sorry to put you on the spot on this. That doesn't give them the ability to sell at that location.
I'm not certain what the transport limitations or requirements are. I don't. I would imagine that there would be sales that would be completed, and it would either be that they would deliver or somebody would come and pick up. Think there's any restriction on how they conduct with their license? So there absolutely could be a transaction conduct that address. There's no limitation on that.
And what is your address?
540 Old Otis Road.
Okay, so is this a contiguous property? Does that come up to?
I have nothing to do with this person. It was just an email that I received that was from Hetty, Vermont, that sort of announces the news in the industry. I have nothing to do with the industry.
Okay.
Well, thank you for your insight on that
Yes.
and the information.
No problem.
Okay, so we'll return to our agenda where we were, and next is the treasurer's report. Jennifer gave you the monthly report of our obligations and expenses. Are there any questions on that for her?
No.
Anything you wanted to bring to our attention on that?
Nope, everything was a normal month, so
Okay. That is good. And then, the moment everybody's been waiting for, our listers have done a great job with their listing this year, putting the 2022 grand list together. And as people know, the tax rate and the budget and the grand list, the budget and the grand list is like a balance beam scale. And we will be able to take just a whisker off last year's tax rate if we go with Jennifer's recommendation. Last year's tax rate was 0.5622 and she is recommending 0.56 this year to meet our obligations. Would someone care to make a motion setting the tax rate at 0.56?
I'll make the motion.
And is there a second?
I'll second that.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Now we can discuss it. Is there discussion on this number? All those in favor of setting the tax rate at 0.56, please say aye.
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 Motion is carried unanimously.
Now can we set the education one?
I think that'd be quite so easy.
Okay, so this is where we spend all that money that you just approved. It's on our roads mostly. And I'll turn the meeting over to Tom, our road commissioner at this point, and the first item has to deal... Oh, I'm sorry.
I just have a couple of other things about the tax rate.
Yes, absolutely.
So you have to vote on the local agreement rate.
I don't believe so.
Or approve that, I should say.
We don't set that, do we?
I don't believe we do.
Okay, I just wanted to make sure. And then I'm going to start printing out tax bills and stuff. So I just need the due date.
That was approved at the annual meeting back in March.
Okay, I will check back on that. Are we going to charge a late filing fee for late filing homesteads? We did not charge a fee last year.
Right. That's been a bone of contention for many years. And it gets rather costly for somebody that forgot. The forgetters will always be with us. What's your pleasure? We have not set what's the word I'm looking for?
Penalty fee?
A penalty. We have not set a penalty in the past.
And what was the board's reasoning in the past? It was just...
It gets very costly for the taxpayer. It involves more paperwork. We don't have a lot of people that forget to do it. I'd say, do you recall, am I right if I say fewer than 10?
I do not remember.
Doug said we do vote on the local agreement. That we do have to set that.
Okay.
So I guess we will have to go back to that and make a motion on it. If
Do you have a number for the local
it was
agreement?
19 cents.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Same as last year.
Okay, so we have a discussion on the floor, which we should have a motion for. We shouldn't even be discussing it without a motion. So would someone care to make a motion relative to the penalty for late filing?
I'll make a motion that we waive it again for this year.
I'll second it.
Okay, motion is made and seconded. Any more discussion on that? Hearing none, all those in favor of waiving the late fee, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay. Then I will entertain a motion to set the local agreement at .0019.
I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Any discussion? All those in favor, please say aye.
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 Any opposed? Motion carries unanimously. Okay, so now, anything else?
Are we going to accept postmarks?
We always have.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I believe that in the motion that was passed at town meeting, that includes the date, you will see that phraseology about postmarks accepted as.
Okay.
Anything else?
I think that's it.
Alrighty then. So, Tom, on Bridge 7 over Mill Brook.
I think everyone was here for the presentation that they gave. And they sent us, and did everyone see Brad's got it all here, from Laura Stone, and that they want us to go with or asking if we're gonna go with their recommendation, which is the replacement of the deck.
Right.
And the widening it. And raising it and widening it, going to 24 feet, and
utilizing the head walls.
utilizing. So, I believe, Brad's got done here, so I'm assuming we should make the motion to, and you can ask that, we'll go one by one on going with the state's recommendation. I don't know if they gave us an alternative number, or if it was just their recommended alternative I would go with. I'll make the motion that we, go with the state's recommended alternative for bridge number 7, which it looks like it's not gonna happen until 2025, but will at the time require us to close the Brook Road for 60 days. So everyone's aware of their 2-year schedule out on that one.
And it will save us a significant amount of money.
Yes, and if anybody wants to see, it'll save us 50% of our match and then another 50% of that by going that route, I believe as well.
I believe that's what it was.
Yeah.
So there's a motion been made, is there a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion? All those in favor of adopting the preferred alternative for Bridge 7 over Mill Brook, please say aye.
Aye.
Motion is carried unanimously.
All right, and while we're into bridges, we will talk about the Lilly Hill Bridge, which is just down the road from the Green Hill culvert. And, can I see that one is, we received the $200,000 grant for the bridge. And it's the one in the S turns, for anyone who knows Lilly Hill at all, going down
Toward 133.
Toward 133. And what we really wanted to do is make the S turn less of an S turn, but it would have required us to be able to move it and get an agreement with the property owners down below, and they aren't interested in that. So I had, and in the other end too, as Michael had brought up, the bridge costs have gone phenomenally high just with the cost of product, and so the $200,000 grant is pretty much maybe 50% or less of what the project would cost to replace. So I'd asked the engineers to come back out and look at it with us, and they did show up last week, and they did come up with a way that we could just rehab that bridge. And so that's our new plan, is that we're gonna, and I'm not gonna get into everything, but it's basically some guardrails, some stumps, some removal, wing wall work and a little bit of, what did they call it? Work down around the footers and stuff is our new plan to use for this grant, which we should be able to easily keep within the $200,000, which will lower us back down to $20,000 match, which we can afford that. So that's just an update. I don't think we need to go any further on that one. Sorry about that. I guess I'm gonna let Brad bring up the drug and alcohol policy, though, that we did get from Vermont Truck and Bus is the one that
I had asked, I had sent you an email with this language that was provided to us as an alternative to the model policy that VLCT had offered us to work with. As you can see by the thickness of the paper, it's more concise. I feel it's a good policy. I don't know what you other select board members felt.
You were using it.
yeah.
When you read it.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, right now,
It seems-
Ken and I, both our companies use that policy.
Yeah,
So-
it's simple, it's easy.
So,
It's nowhere near as complicated as the other one that we were rolled with.
we want to make a motion to use that one. It's probably, I'll make the motion that we use the alcohol and control substance testing policy provided by Vermont Truck and Bus.
Yep,
Yeah.
I'll second that.
Okay, any discussion on that?
Just to clarify, is that to test the employees of the town?
Yes.
That's a random drug testing for CDL drivers only.
CDL, okay.
Yeah, but everybody who works here is a CDL driver, so yeah, it's,
Yeah, pretty
Yeah,
much.
And we have been testing, just we didn't have a written policy in place.
Oh, perfect.
And that was brought to our attention by the insurance company.
I always thought the policy was, you get tested, you fail, you're done, you're out of here.
which isn't actually a legal policy.
Illegal?
Yeah, no,
I
you,
don't see anything illegal.
no, but our new policy will
Well,
help.
and this spells out
Yeah.
that.
Because if you apply for a job and you fail the test, you don't get hired, so,
That's the hiring part.
Yeah.
But once you're actually an employee,
yeah.
That
and
you-
you should get fired. You do everywhere else, so.
Yeah.
It has the better part of a page on prohibited conduct.
Yeah, well,
Kind of gives us a written roadmap of what we can do if the problem comes up.
It outlines what substances are tested for. It outlines the testing procedures. And there is a requirement that drivers must submit to the tests. Okay, so, the motion has been made and seconded.
Yep.
And is there any more discussion on it? Okay, so all those in favor of adopting this policy, please say aye.
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 Okay, so that is carried. And then next, we have Stephanie Borque here from the Rutland Regional Planning Commission. And for quite a while now, what, about a year and a half? We've been working with the town of Mount Tabor on identifying local natural hazards.
The original agreement was signed back in December of 2020.
2 years.
So we've amended that agreement once, which brought our services through June 30 of this year. Really, the project had hit a pause back last November, December. So I believe I'm here at the request of the board to discuss maybe resuming work on the project, whether the project remains a community priority, and if so, kind of next steps to jumpstart things again.
And I think the first step is the select board members have all reviewed the map and would like to identify areas that we think are either incorrect or perhaps...
When would you like to do that?
Right now.
Okay, gentlemen, I haven't looked at your project in 8 months.
Yeah, no, and he shouldn't put you on the
So-
spot.
Well,
We're
no,
not-
but I
we're
mean,
not
we've
really
been
gonna do
we've been
that
kicking
right
this
now,
can down the
preferably.
road forever and ever, and
There's really, we have an agreement for services that lays out a scope of work and a process for doing this project. And I've worked now with 21 of our 27 towns in the Rutland region on updating these plans. So I've got a fair amount of experience doing this. I think if you're interested and remain, wanting to pursue this plan update for the community, we'd want to talk about reassembling a planning team with appropriate representatives from the community so that we could, pick up where we left off last November, December, and move forward with the process.
And I think, and I'm not sure if Brad, and I don't, is we were trying to do it with the whole board's involvement. So that would get a little trickier because it would have to be at
Okay, this is not gonna work. Okay, I mean, for me to come down during a regular
and well, not during a
board
public
meeting,
board, but we can have it, well,
you can
there
have a
always are.
special meeting, and that would be the only topic we discuss, because planning team meetings for
Right,
this
right.
plan typically last between an hour and 2. This is a 5-year plan that's got to get FEMA approval. There's a fair amount of work and process that goes into this plan. So it's not the kind of thing that I could...
Right.
okay, when I said right now, I didn't mean review the whole document right now, I meant review that map.
Right, and I'm
Which
telling
we-
you, I'm not prepared
Okay.
to really, as I said, I haven't looked at your plan in 8 months because that's when we stopped work. So I'm not really in a position to be an effective facilitator of the information you'd be trying to review with me right now. I'd kind of want to know that we have a path forward that we could successfully, finish this work by the end of the year. And I use that as the deadline because FEMA has revised their guidance for review of local hazard mitigation plans. That guidance becomes effective in April of next year, but the state of Vermont is going to start using that guidance in January. It will make the content and input of the plan, it's going to raise the bar on that as compared to what we have right now. So
Can you elaborate on that a little?
I can't because I haven't been trained on it yet. Our trainings aren't scheduled until September on that new guidance and what the requirements are going to be. But what I've been told by the state hazard mitigation planner is that the plans we're doing today are not going to meet all of the federal they're not going to meet the level of detail required to hit all of the federal requirements once that new guidance becomes effective. So, I would encourage the town to seriously consider resuming work. I think there are a wide range of benefits for you having this plan current with FEMA. It does open up eligibility for certain FEMA hazard mitigation grants. And some of the culvert type projects that are really large that you folks have been discussing tonight would be potentially really good hazard mitigation candidates. So I definitely think there's some advantages to you having this plan, but I think we need to talk quite a bit about how to kind of learn from what we've done and reposition ourselves for success to finish up potentially by the end of the year.
So I guess we hadn't been involved, and it sounds like you hadn't, so Mount Tabor kind of put theirs on pause too for the same time.
Right, because it's a multi-jurisdictional
Right, okay,
plan in
yeah.
tandem, so everything kind of just hit the pause button last November, December. So at this point, I think just, does this remain a priority? And if so, how quickly could we reassemble a planning team and get back to work?
Have you spoken with Mount Tabor at all on their thoughts on getting it back together? Because I haven't reached out to them.
No, I have not. I'm actually down in Mount Tabor on the next week, I think the 16th, is that a Tuesday? I'm down there on Tuesday of next week.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, that's July.
That one next to it.
No, but it is, that's the 16th.
Can't see that far.
Above.
But yeah, I'm down there for another project. I'd be happy to touch base with Phil and, get in touch. Phil was the representative from Mount Tabor, who he's now actually their select board chair, so I think that makes really good sense. Unless something significant has changed, I don't believe that they would have any problem resuming work.
Do any of our members see a problem with resuming work?
I guess,
We did, I believe, lose one person due to,
Well, I think if the plan itself and concept remains a priority for the community, we really need to be strategic about assembling a solid planning team, because I think that was the root of our pause last year, was that there wasn't really the right representation from Danby on that team.
what's your thoughts on how we do it?
What exactly wasn't the right representation? Because
So
I believe
the-
Shelley was on there and Larry Bovee.
No.
Larry wasn't,
No.
who was on it?
I was
It was
for
me,
one
it
meeting.
was Tom Johnson.
So your local emergency management director, Tom Johnston, who represented the emergency management perspective as well as fire department, because he's a member of the fire department and just kind of a longstanding member of the community. Shelley was a member representing the planning commission, so that sector was well represented. And then Tom Fuller had originally been, I think, designated to be part of the planning team, but had conflicts which prevented him from being able to participate in the meetings. So that's really the critical sector that was lacking previously, was representation for your highway department, because that represents the largest municipal asset in your community that might be vulnerable to the impacts of natural hazards like flooding. So without that key knowledge base on the planning team, I don't think that we will succeed moving forward if we were to resume work.
So if we were to start again, I don't know if Shelley's still going to help or not, but, Tom, you're willing to, if we can
Well, I
match
think
your
my
schedule,
biggest,
right?
my biggest concern, Steve, on the whole thing was putting it on such a small thing out of a group was,
Well, no.
and that was what I was, because after our November meeting, that's when I came to the board and said, I think the whole board should participate, because it is so vital that we do it accurately.
Right, but the direction I'm trying to head right now is if you're willing to do it, being road commissioner, and Ken and I are willing to do it, we've both worked with the road crew, we've worked with you before, Ken's on the fire department, Brad's been in town forever to where he knows some of the different aspects. If we work as a group with Shelley and maybe somebody else.
I mean, the only thing we would have to do is just notice our meetings.
Right.
Yeah, I mean,
And
it's
if you
not,
would like to have a planning team that consists of all the board members and Shelley, I think that would be fantastic.
Well, I
I'm
think
just saying we
that would
can't-
spread us out over town a little bit more
Yes.
in different areas to where we have different eyes looking at things.
I 100% support that planning team composition. It just can't be the same night as a regular board meeting. They'd have to be dedicated.
Oh, it couldn't
Yeah,
ever.
meetings just for this.
That's fine, I'm up for whatever.
Okay?
So any night of the week we call you and tell you to get here, you'll show up.
I will, I come from East Dorset at 4 o'clock, so if you get me before 4, I will stop on my way home.
So, yeah, I'm perfectly willing to do evening meetings. That works with probably 50% of the towns that I work with. So, 6 o'clock evening meeting is something I could definitely accommodate. We're gonna have to put the pedal to the metal and slog through it to get it done by the end of the year. So as long as everybody's on board for that, I will support you.
My only question is back to, you said that this isn't gonna meet the new federal guidance.
We don't get this done this year. That's why I'm saying we've got to put the pedal to the metal.
Okay, so if we do it under this plan,
Yes.
okay.
It will be grandfathered under the,
Correct.
And it'll be good.
Correct. I have an existing service agreement with you guys. I'll need to get you another amendment to extend the period of performance. But I'm just cautioning you that I think it's fantastic that the whole board is willing to contribute their time to the development of the update, but we're gonna have to, it's gonna require, probably 3 to 4 planning team meetings, and then presentation of the draft at another public meeting. So.
May I ask what you would propose as a date and time for the first meeting?
I'll need to let you know. I'll look at my calendar when I get back to the office. Are there particular days of the week that work best for you all? So that I can maybe narrow down that. But what I like to do when we have, because I feel like we're going to be having kind of a little mini kickoff again, because we're going to be having new members, and I don't want, you can't start halfway into the process without a little bit of like getting up to speed. And one of the things that we talk about at the beginning of the process is kind of confirming a regular meeting time. So is there a particular day that works best for you?
Well, if we're gonna try and get Mike on, it'd have to be end of the week.
Have to be a minimum of a Thursday.
I'm not
correct?
doing Friday nights with you. I'm sorry. I draw the line there.
Thursday it is.
Sounds like
Yeah, no, I mean, Thursdays would probably work. It's just that one of the members is out of town until Thursdays, so he could
Okay.
attend a Thursday night. Yeah.
All right. Yeah, I'll look at my calendar, but we'll for now say Thursdays at 6 o'clock.
As long as it isn't the second Thursday.
right. Second Thursday.
Second Thursday is this meeting of
Yeah.
every month, so we could do it either the first or third. Yeah.
And if we're starting at 6, I'll be late.
Okay, do we want to start at 6:30? Would that be better?
I think I might be able to do 6:30, but
Okay.
I usually don't get done milking until about 6:30.
Okay, 6:30 it is, all right? So I'll go back, take a look at my calendar, and I'll send out an email. I think I have all the board emails at our office.
And even if you don't.
Yeah, if you get
I'll
them
send it to Brad, and Brad will disseminate. And as my first available Thursday night at 6:30, I'll be here and we'll wrap this up.
With pizza.
Maybe. But yeah, we'll dive in, we'll get this done, okay?
Great.
All right, good.
Okay. Well, I'm glad to see some positive movement in that.
Me too. I think, I'm hopeful that you'll find it as a practical and reasonable document that will give you some benefit. So, thank you. Good night.
Okay, thank you, Stephanie. Okay, next we have the issue of the Depot Street drainage. And Mike Powers and I have done some work on that, and then I met with an engineer from Dufresne Group, and I believe you've all seen the report. It's not a report, actually.
It's a quote for a...
It's a quote for doing work, a study to find out what's actually going on with these broken drains there.
I guess my only question is, we've got to bring Mount Tabor in on this.
Well, Mount Tabor has said that they are willing to work with us. This is
To the tune of $2,500.
this is not something new. Well, you know, Mount Tabor, it's not picking up Mount Tabor water, it's picking up Danby water, and Mount Tabor, in my view, is being very kind in letting us discharge it in their town.
I think we got to at least involve them because we can't actually work in their town without their.
Yeah.
So.
And they said that, you know, they're willing to work with us, but as far as how much expense they should be expected to pick up, you know, I certainly don't feel it's a 50-50 proposition.
Did they get ARPA money?
I assume they did.
Well, I'm just saying.
But I mean, you know, we're taking water all the way from the Main Street Bridge down South Main Street to the Masonic Hall, where we now have the sign that says China this way, and taking it under Main Street and down along Depot Street where there's old clay tile pipe that's broken, and when we had that deluge a week ago Thursday, it actually boiled out of the ground like a geyser 3 feet tall. So, you know, the problem's not getting any better. We've had complaints from Ed Griffith, we've had complaints from the fellow that owns Gloria White's house. He was at a meeting about a year ago, you'll recall. So that's where, you know, Mount Tabor comes into play also, because that house is in Mount Tabor. It's got to get done.
I do know that a few years back, we did some work down there.
Oh yeah, you did right at the front of George's.
Pictures of that.
We tried to figure out the drainage issue through there. I don't know, you must know Dale Gilderdale?
David Gilderdale.
Yeah. He worked with us. We put a bunch of dye in up by the Masonic, and we never did get the water to actually come. The water that was coming out wasn't the water that was going in. So I don't know what kind of Panderic box we're gonna open here.
Where it's actually picking up the water, you're
Right.
saying, because it isn't all coming from by the Masonic Temple, it must be coming from another area.
Yep.
But was there actually a pipe there that you were picking, or you're just picking up water?
We were picking up water and it was dumping right there by Davies.
Now, was it following our water line, or was it just in that
It's
area?
above our water line, and then there's another, we could see the broken clay tile pipe. And then below our water line, there's a mystery pipe.
Well, there was old sewer pipe,
Yeah.
which was the clay
And
tile,
that's
because I had
probably
that
what-
going by my
Yeah,
house.
and that's the one, I assume, that is below our water line, because sewer lines are always below.
I got
water
mine
lines.
hooked up again.
Can we manage that water above ground rather than trying to figure out where it's going underground?
Well, it all depends what water we're talking about. If it's the water that's going into the Masonic temples thing, we probably could do something different with it. But if it's water that we don't know where it's coming from, I would assume we're getting water from up by the Silas?
There's that box culvert, the cement box culvert.
Which is right next to
due west of the triangle, which doesn't ever get any water in it.
Yeah, but you put dye in that one too, or you did not?
We dyed both of them
Yeah.
and couldn't get it to come out down.
Because
every
when you're saying about manage it above ground, I'm thinking that, you know, you could make that water continue south and go into the box culvert, but we don't know where the box culvert goes.
So,
I've been told that it used to daylight where that pipe is by Georgia Labatt's mailbox. There's like a railing.
There's a culvert there.
No, it used to be kind of a bridge, wasn't it? That used to be
There's
dug,
something there.
that used to be
We
dug
cleaned
out
that.
there, yeah.
We cleaned that.
Yeah, no,
down to the
it's actually a
line.
bridge, I believe.
Yeah,
It's just buried.
yeah, well, and that was the problem, the water has nowhere to go, so.
So I guess back to what Chrissy was talking about doing. They were gonna put a camera down and see where
They're
that,
gonna perform a video inspection and location of the 2 storm drains utilizing 3 access points, 2 on either end of the first drain basin and 1 on the upstream end of the second drain. We will also dig safe the site in case any excavation is needed to assist in the location. If excavation is needed, the town would be responsible for providing an excavator or similar equipment and operator. We will GPS locate the storm drains during the inspection and location work. They will prepare a base map of the located drains using orthophoto. They will prepare a letter summarizing the findings and recommendations, and then they would want a notice to proceed within 2 weeks of notice to proceed. Schedule a date for a video inspection and pipe location. The date for the video inspection and pipe location work is dependent on the availability of the sub-consultant. And 2 weeks after that, they would submit a letter to the town with their findings.
is that gonna address the scope of what, it sounds like the dye test kinda.
It really didn't work because we couldn't.
Well, wasn't the dye test in connection with the issue over by the old train station?
Yeah, now that was supposed to give us a direction of where the water was coming from
And we could
where
never-
it was going.
We could never find, there was a clay tile pipe that was flowing from a southwesterly direction to the railroad crossing that had a lot of water flowing through it, and we could never discover where it was coming from. Because they put the camera up, but it had a limited.
See, my concern is with this, proposal, is that they're not really dealing with, they're kind of maybe going more in depth of what has already been done, but the scope of work should maybe try to identify, because they're not really identifying where the water's coming from in this. They're just looking at that, correct, or am I not?
Well, we know that water comes all the way from the Main Street Bridge and goes to that catch basin.
But we're getting
By the
water
masons.
more than, see, that would be surface water, and that's only gonna happen when it rains.
Surface water.
But that's still wet down there with, 2 months without rain is probably the,
And we also know by looking at a property survey of the Silas Griffith property that was done by Hemingway back in the 50s, that it shows a stream going through there. Where's the stream?
Well, the other thing is too, is this spring, I was down with Rick Kent, down by the old mill building, and there's no rain, and that water was bubbling out of that drain by the old mill. It's groundwater coming from somewhere.
And that we found the pond north of Davy's gas station drains under Route 7 and comes out under the middle of the mill. Is that the section you're talking
This
about?
is, yeah, this is the drain right by,
the silo.
no, actually, it's back by the big building, almost directly straight across from the pond.
Yeah.
And, I mean, it was
Yeah,
bubbling
and that we
right up.
found on highway maps.
Yeah. But where that water was actually coming from,
Right.
nobody could really figure that out.
Where's that storm drain supposed to discharge?
Oh, well, it's supposed to go down behind and through the
Under
mill.
the tracks again.
Yeah, under the tracks, and then back over in the dip on the,
Because if the discharge on that is plugged, that's gonna back everything up.
Well, I mean, in
And
the,
that was the point
In-
of dredging Sucker Brook.
Right.
yeah, in the big picture is a lot of it is the ditches, even that my grandfather used to do on the south of that area there, used to keep the water flowing out of that area, and they haven't been done in, 60 years. And, that's kind of, you've seen this, I've been there 56 and I've watched the water creep up
Right,
at
if
us.
we can't drain it, it's just gonna continue to come at us and
Right.
turn it into a swamp.
Yeah,
well, all that farmland down in the valley, we used to be all farm. Now you couldn't get through there with a boat.
No.
well, even that lower section of Griffiths now,
Yeah.
that's not even mowable.
No, as dry as it's been this summer, we almost got stuck in there.
Our backyard is the same way.
Yeah.
Everybody's along that. It's in my way in the backyard on the southwest, or in the south corner, it bubbles up. And some days you walk across it, it's like you're walking on a waterbed. There's so much water under the, but it hadn't rained for,
Well, if we started cleaning the brooks at Otter Creek and worked our way back,
And
or the
basically-
ditches, we would, it would drain out. And Nancy Lee, when she moved in there, she's telling me how that whole backyard, and we used to play out there when the Tufts were there, and it's like Tracy was saying, it's clay now.
And basically, when they filled for Route 7, that was like constructing a dam.
Yeah.
Well, even my grandfather's meadows, which are behind there, they were never swamp. And now that's,
Wicked.
you can't even do anything in them. I mean, those were meadows.
I think that's what caused the problems when they put Route 7 through there. They didn't really do well.
You're probably right, because they
That's right.
he ditched them, they cleaned them ditches a few times after that.
Yeah.
And it would, and that was, they were more religious about doing it. And,
Because they were
and
still
it would
farming.
start getting wet, and then after, it would only take, a month, and it would dry it back
Yeah,
down again. And then that would last, but now without 60 years of ditching, it would probably take 40 for it to drain it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, because the composition of soil changed.
Yeah.
It's just hard knowing what we're actually dealing with. If they can look at the condition of the drainage, but the drainage problem may not even be the issue we're dealing with.
Well, I think the surface drainage problem is less of a factor than the
Continuous groundwater.
the continuous groundwater.
Right.
And I think the problem is in this proposal, they're gonna deal with the surface water, which we probably could, but that's not gonna alleviate the whole problem. And we almost need to get the scope of work to try to alleviate that whole area, which then is quite a bit of,
Largely in Mount Tabor.
largely in Mount Tabor, who you don't know if they got ARPA money yet.
are ARPA funds being used for this
Yes.
whole thing?
They can be, yeah.
Well, is it gonna be?
Well, we're not
Portion.
spending anything right now,
Well,
so
I understand that, but is that, the
that
general plan is to use ARPA funds for,
A portion of the ARPA funds.
and do you know when they're gonna be doing all these tests, or have you
Well, they're
said?
not gonna do anything unless we sign the
Well, I
contract.
understand it, but, I mean, did they give you any idea if you did
they said they
sign
would do it within a couple weeks, I think,
Yeah.
if we, and right now, and I don't think we got to that point, is the scope of work that, they're proposing was a cost of
$5,000.
$5,000 is what. But my concern is, are we actually addressing the full issue, or if we're just dealing with surface water?
So they're saying they would start within 2 weeks of us signing this.
The only good thing I could see about this is if there is a break or a blockage in the drain for the storm water, they could at least identify where it is rather than us just digging.
Right.
But if we're still dealing with the continuous groundwater that,
My only concern is if we throw $5,000 at it and get nowhere, and then what is our next thing? Are we gonna throw another 10 at it and try a different or should we try to get somebody to take in the bigger valley area there in their proposed scope of work to try to actually solve? Because this really, they're not guaranteeing they're gonna solve anything for us. They're just kinda.
well, if we can
No,
find somebody
they're
that can do what you
identifying.
want, I think
They're
that's better.
identifying the pipe
Right.
and the drain stuff, but
This is just a,
yeah, and I'm just wondering if we should try to increase the scope of work that we're trying to accomplish while we're there. Because I guess I would hate to do it in 5,000, 5,000, 5,000, 5,000 if we could do it in 10.
someone has their hand up.
Yes, Annette?
Yes, this is Annette Smith. Can you hear me?
Yes, we
Yes.
can.
And I'm sorry you could hear me before. I don't know what happened. This is a fascinating conversation, and I think Tom is absolutely right. I've done a lot of work on water and have had to learn a lot about these kinds of issues. And I'm wondering if you might want to consult with the hydrogeologist who worked on the Omia site. I'd be glad to talk to you, Tom, and give you his contact information. This is the site up in Florence. Danby has a lot of water, and that's in the town history. And I think that you're talking about evaluating stormwater, as you pointed out, but that this groundwater flow is something that's a little more in-depth and may require a different firm, but you could also ask this firm what they would do to look at where the water's coming from. And I mean, what I found most interesting was the idea that there may be a stream under the inn or in the vicinity of the inn.
Next to the Masonic Temple.
And so, is it also possible that historically, with all this underground piping, that someone actually did make an effort to divert that stream or do something with it? But this is Tom's right. It's way more than stormwater, and I'd be glad to, at least give you someone else to talk to about how you go about evaluating this, because that to me is the big question: is what's the methodology for looking at the source of this groundwater, which I've heard about from people who live in the area too. So I think what you're looking at spending $5,000 on, I don't think is going to get you a solution, and Tom's absolutely right.
No, I would be appreciative if we could bring more people in on this, on that, so that...
I'll send you an email, Tom, and just give you in fact, I'll write to David and introduce you, and then tell him what the situation is, and you can take it from there.
No, thank you.
Okay, so it sounds like we are going to table action on this engaging Dufresne at this time.
I actually run into Gilderdale from time to time. Might we want his input on it since he's already done a little research?
I thought he had retired.
He has, but he's still doing some stuff, so. But we might be able to pick his brain even though he's retired.
Well, and that's the thing is I mean, I think in this instance, the more minds involved in it, the better outcome we can maybe come up with. And I just hate to haphazardly start, thinking that we solved this problem and throw this, money at things quickly without doing it, I guess this is one of the things, I'd rather do it right than quick.
Yeah, that 5,000 could turn big in a hurry if you're gonna get an excavator in there and start changing things, and might cause more of a problem until we figure out exactly what we got going on.
Yeah, no, and I think Chrissy's quote's probably something we can build on, and she would definitely be involved in this, but I think we want to expand our look at this so I guess tabling that for the moment would be our...
And what kind of a next step do we want to look at that this just doesn't kind of get forgotten about?
Well, I mean,
and I know that you're on top of getting something fixed down there, that we don't have this hazardous hole.
And I guess that was what I was waiting when we had talked earlier to know if that was part of, and I think we were just looking for something to come across that we knew wasn't gonna, but yeah, I think the DI can be fixed without a problem, because I think that's just a collapsed DI, and if we're worried about safety in the water making it down to Marquis so it can bubble up out. I mean, that we can do in-house. I mean, the town crew actually, I think we're getting to a point where we're ditching over, but we could fit that into it. And maybe at least resolve that. We're definitely not resolving anything other than the safety issue at that point.
Right.
I would like to speak to the hydrogeologist from Omni. I mean, it wouldn't hurt just to get some input from somebody that has probably quite a bit of knowledge on this. So, and then maybe that could help us put out the scope of work that we're actually asking for someone to help us,
So will you be willing to report on this at the next meeting? That should have given you some time to speak with the hydrogeologist.
No, that sounds good.
So we're gonna put that on the September agenda. And
So are we just gonna go ahead and fix the problem down there?
Yep.
Just get the hole to China so somebody don't fall into it then.
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is just dig around, and I'm sure it's a stone laid collapsed DI.
Yep.
All right, are you gonna do the shortcut road?
actually, I think I'm gonna turn that over to Steve and Ken because they were on site for that. You did get a nice little report from Josh Carvajal, who was down here with Patrick, what's his last name? Wilson. Looking at it, and why don't you take it, Steve?
And basically what Josh was saying is that we are dealing with an active landslide that has continued to be an active landslide for roughly 6 years since the first he looked at it, and he noticed a considerable change since the last time he was down. And just no quotes, ballpark figures, going by other projects he's looked at, he figured it would cost us between $10,000 and $20,000 just to have core samples drilled and have somebody study the soils to see what our next step would be after that. And he was guessing, I believe it was in the ballpark of $150,000 to come up with a project to try to stabilize the road with no guarantees. And at this point in time, Wells is dealing with an active landslide that he's dealt with, and he said everything they've thrown at it so far has not worked.
And to follow up with that, I mean, we are going to do some improvements to the Lilly Hill road coming out where it meets Parish Hill there. So we're doing at least some significant brush cutting, and we're going to pave down to the bridge again so that can be salted in the mornings, because that's typically, you guys all slide downhill good to Shelley. You're good at tobogganing, and once you get to the bridge, it's that last I've been there many a times where everybody's there and they're actually friendly, not. So in our project that we're doing this year, because we did get the paving grant, and that was kind of one of them things that it showed up last minute, even though they had denied it. So that is going to be part of that project where we do maybe some safety improvements and maybe make it a little easier, definitely easier for sight distances, and hopefully easier to take off in that area.
Well, it's not even so much always the taking off. That's a sharp 90-degree turn. I come down Paris Hill every day. And if it's icy and the guys haven't gotten there yet or whatever, you know, we get these pop-up storms that screw everybody up. But you try to stop in that dip before you go up Sergeant Hill. I can't tell you how many times I slid by my road and just slid by the town truck who was trying to sand, and you know, it's more the cars that I've seen off the road, because you come down Paris Hill with a good amount of momentum and you hit your brakes and it's icy, you take off. So it's kind of a double-edged sword. Coming out of it, the visibility sucks. People come down Sergeant Hill like crazy. People come down Paris Hill like crazy. And they can be on you so fast, you don't have time to turn around. Sister-in-law drives a school bus. You know, you can't get that. I don't care how fast she drives. You can't get that school bus out of there sometimes and out of the way. So I think clearing the sites on either end is going to be huge. It's going to be beneficial. Down the road, something else happens where there can be a lessening of that sharp 90-degree turn. That would be wonderful.
Right. I mean, and the thing is, these are something that we can do that's 100%.
Right.
The problem with and I don't know if Steve has more to talk about on that, I just wanted to add to it, that there's a lot of uncertainties in that project.
I get it. I'm relatively reasonable most days. Not always, but most days. We get it. No one who lives over there who has utilized the shortcut road, I mean, it's what, a quarter of a mile, that road? Yes, in a lot of ways it doesn't make sense to maintain a road, but it's always been a safety valve. And we get it. But we also get it. We got out and we walk that road and stuff. We understand. And as a taxpayer, I wouldn't want to see you throw $100,000 just to get a plan that may not work. And then throw another $300,000 on a quarter-mile stretch of road. If you can do something.
If we could take all of that money and put it into the Lilly Hill entrance end of it, where that, I mean, we could do significant improvements there, and we're not going to spend nearly that for there. More like the planning money or the testing money is probably what we're going to spend on that.
Right.
And I would hope to see vast improvements on your guys' sight distances and accessibility on it.
I mean, I've seen a car come down through from Paris Hill and land up on that little rocky outcrop that makes that 90-degree turn, land on the top of it. And I've also seen cars come from the other way and go off, wherever. And it's not too far up the road. If you continue up, you can go over the ditch, which is the falls.
Right.
At, the pull-off. There's a lot of inherent danger there. And as long as you're going to address it, and I don't speak for all of West Side by any stretch, but just from my own experience, I very much appreciate that you're revisiting it, and I very much appreciate that you're realizing that there is a danger.
Well, I don't believe in we haven't discussed it as a board, but I can kind of look around and see if anybody gives me a look that we're talking about throwing that road up at this time. We're just saying we're not going to do anything with it at this time.
Correct.
Is that's
possibly reclassify it as a class 4?
I guess where we're going with this is we're trying to address that safety issue. We brought in this shortcut road to say, look, this may just be, throwing money down a money pit there and watching it slide down into the brook.
Yeah,
so I think we know we can do a lot of improvements to the Lilly Hill entrance end. And if we get to that point, and then maybe later on something comes around that looks better with this, at least is my feelings, that we'll just kind of leave it for the time being as I guess it's closed. Is it how it is?
I think that's a good idea personally, and previously I've been to the board with this conversation before. This isn't my first go around with short-term road stuff.
Right.
But, we were given misinformation, I guess you could call it. And just kind of gossip, grapevine, the road's been thrown up, it's this, it's that, it's the other. So the fact that you're looking at it and dealing with it, I'm happy.
Okay, Steve, I'm done cutting you off. Did you have any more?
Are you sure? The only other thing that I was gonna say on it, as far as on a state level goes, I think that we either need to take it off of our mileage because we're not maintaining it, or we need to reclassify it. That way, we're not misrepresenting it to the state.
If we reclassify it, we could always,
If we reclassify it to like a class 4 trail, we could bring it back in the
Later
future
on
if we
in-
wanted to.
yeah.
If we throw it up, then we're done. I think the best route would be to reclassify it as a class 4 for now. That way, it would be clean on the books with the state and we wouldn't have any issues legally. Better than that,
We're gonna lose a couple $100 in
yeah,
grant.
we're gonna lose $100 here and there, but. Yeah.
Would you like to put that on the September agenda, reclassifying it, and I'll find out.
If we have to walk it and everything.
Well, I'm sure there's a
Yeah, no, I'm
procedure
sure we'll
that
have to
needs
do
be
a
met.
meeting at it, and
Yeah.
like we did on Greens Hill, where when we
Right.
threw it up, or the backside, whatever it was.
Yes, for September.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
good with September on it.
You give me a date, I'll take the day off.
Well, actually, we're putting it on the September
Board meeting?
board meeting.
Okay.
And then I guess by then, he's gonna know if we have to do the meeting on site to walk it and go from there. But I guess what we're talking about is declassifying it, or for,
I know Tim had suggested that. He thought that was the best idea. You know, just
Who was this?
my Tim.
Okay.
Just as a lifelong resident over there, and he's driven that road for, since he was probably too young to drive. But, being a farm boy. But, he thought it would be prudent, instead of just throwing it up, why don't you reclassify it as a.
right, at least for now, yeah.
That leaves it open end. I
Yeah.
can ask for more than that.
Okay, anything else on that? We'll get back to you in September. There has been discussion ongoing for quite some time, probably more than months, maybe even years, about the question of a select board member volunteering services and whether or not they are covered by workman's compensation insurance when they are. So we were finally able to get something in writing from Vermont League of Cities and Towns, Vicky Abar, who is the senior underwriter, and I would like to read that into the minutes at this time. She writes, "A select board member that volunteers to plow using a municipal vehicle would be covered for liability according to the terms, conditions, limitations, and exclusions of the PACIF coverage document. If the select board member is injured while plowing town roads, workman's comp coverage may extend to road commissioners or select board members while actually engaged in highway maintenance or construction, according to workers' comp statute. If the vehicle requires a CDL to operate, he must be part of a drug and alcohol testing program. Can you reach out to Wade Monsieur if you are not familiar with CDL requirements? Sincerely, Vicky." So, that's the answer on that.
The misnomer that we weren't covered.
So, going back to that,
She just,
I can't type
She can't
that.
type as fast as you.
I mean, oh,
So, the way that reads, right now, would
all of
Tom
us.
and Mike be covered because their companies participate in the drug testing, but I would not because I'm not part of, or do they have to now be on the town's testing as well? I mean, the way it sounded like their policies should cover them.
Yeah, it sounds to me like as long as you've been tested, it doesn't matter whether it was the town or.
Yeah, but you have to sign into that program.
When I went
So
to
what-
work for Abbott, I had to get it drug tested before, and I had already had one at the town when I left the town.
Right, and both of their companies are participating in the drug testing,
Yes.
but I just want to make sure that their company's testing is going to cover the town. Or do they have to now be tested through the
I think you have to do
town?
a separate one for the town, I believe. That's,
I would have trouble believing that, but it could be right.
I would check into that.
Yeah, because the thing is your name would go into maybe the same pool twice. So you
Right.
could actually be drawn twice in the same quarter if you're in this one and that one.
Right, I don't think it should be that way, but I
And
want to
it-
make sure
well,
before we get in trouble.
Yeah, no, and because if just use Ken for example and me, if Ken's on his and he also worked for me, he would have to, if the rules were that way, he would literally, and we use the same testing company.
Yeah.
That, so he could be drawn twice on the same thing where the guy would come down to take the P-test from the same guy twice at the same time.
I've had to do it
How many
twice in the
tests have
same
I
month.
done this year?
So I mean, I'm not sure on that. Some rules are really stupid. You would think if you're in any drug testing policy, you're covered because you're now screened.
I would
Yeah,
think so,
because
but we're
that's-
dealing with municipalities now.
Yeah.
No, it's, I guess that's something that maybe we should ask
That
one
should be
step
asked
further.
one step
As
further,
long
just
as
to make
you're in an
sure.
active drug testing plan with a company that maintains a drug testing policy, do you have to actually be on the towns as well?
I think that's your key word, active.
Yeah, no, it does no good to be in a non-active.
Well, I get
Yeah.
that, but, I mean, if you've been drug tested in the past, I mean, if you're in an active thing.
You're in an active, but I think really you could possibly, if you're in two, you could actually be pulled
Oh,
in
absolutely.
the same lottery where you're testing twice the same day.
Municipalities, absolutely.
Yeah. So that is a good question. So I'm not gonna answer it because it seems stupid that you could do it, so it probably could.
And then the next thing would be that, I'll have to get put onto the
Danby's.
town's
Yeah.
drug testing policy,
Right.
because I want to remain available if needed.
Yep, which makes sense.
That should be pretty easy. Is that anything that needs action? Or is
We're doing that under road commissioner, it's not on there. I was gonna do it under new business or under road commissioner stuff, I mean.
it's up to you?
All right, so we're off from the,
Okay, so next would be old business, and some very old business dating back to 3 years ago when we did the renovation on this building. There was discussion about putting in a heat pump, and no action was taken at that time. And we discussed air conditioners. I, for one, do not like window units because they're a great security breach. I mean, you can just knock the air conditioner out, push the window open, and you're in the building. And I don't think they're as effective as a heat pump. So I'm asking for
get some quotes on heat pumps.
authorization to get quotes on heat pumps.
I think that's a great idea.
I will second that.
Well, make a motion.
I'll make a motion to
Get
look
quotes
into
on-
quotes for heat pump.
Is there a
I'll
second?
second it.
Any discussion?
Now, we're going to be using this to cool the building and.
No, a heat
Does
pump does both.
It does both.
And I've always heard that they're very inefficient for.
That's what
Well,
I-
yeah, we're not gonna rip out the heating
I
system.
have them, I love them,
My neighbor has one and they hate it.
but I love it.
Okay, well, at this point, we just wanna get quotes. So, is there any more discussion?
I guess, after we get quotes, maybe when we go farther with this, we could get somebody who actually.
More knowledgeable?
Meaning one of the companies, and I actually know one of the companies, the guy's real knowledgeable on it, to come down and speak to the town at a meeting so that everybody knows what they're talking about or what we'd be purchasing, at that time, so that we don't just buy some heat pumps without giving people a little more in-depth knowledge, which I'm sure a lot of people out there already have quite a bit, but we can always add to their knowledge.
So, all those in favor of getting quotes on heat pumps, please say aye.
Aye.
I didn't hear anybody not say aye, so we will proceed with that. The second thing that kind of piggybacked on that was, is there any interest in having security cameras installed?
Has there been any problems? You know? Break-ins or?
I mean, a few years ago, we had problems, but
No, we're talking mounted outside or inside to
Both.
watch everybody.
well, yeah, both, I would assume both buildings. You know, the issue of perhaps either break-ins or illegal dumping.
Accident.
The what?
If you have an accident.
An accident?
In the parking lot, I mean, there you would have,
Yeah, and that's where I'm thinking the outside ones are 100% easily. The inside ones, I guess I'm on the fence on if they're.
You know, I mean, at tax collection time, it might be nice to have a security camera.
Yeah, no, I mean, you can get decent ones for probably under $700 that we can put to the cloud. We can get motion activated ones. But I think that's probably, is that something you want to actually look into pricing on?
Me personally, I don't want to look
Okay.
into it. If somebody else would take that ball and run with it while I run with the heat pump ball, I'd be greatly appreciative.
I like the idea. Anyone volunteering?
I don't know a lot about them, so.
I think if I take that one on too, I'm gonna,
I mean, we could also perhaps delegate it and ask the town clerk if she'd be willing to collect quotes on it. Is that what we want?
We could railroad Mike.
Quotes?
yeah.
He's not here.
If he's not here, we just name him
We're
as.
still waiting for him to get the flagpole up, so let's overburden him too much.
Let's just discuss that
that,
next
right.
meeting.
Okay.
Unless Steve really is gonna jump up and say, yes,
Yeah,
I wanna spend all of August and September looking at, I mean, it's,
Yeah, I mean, it sounds like you already know what you're talking about on this, Tom.
no, I mean, we
You're
have,
quoting prices already.
yeah, no, I don't wanna, take that on in this month, for sure.
To stop cattle rustlers.
Shotgun.
Okay, so that's going on September. We pretty well got the September agenda built in case anybody didn't notice that. New business. Or is there any other old business? Gone. New business.
I do have an application from Jake, Jake, how's his last name? Desjardins. We were talking about getting somebody for maybe 40 hours in the next month and a half to do the weed eating around some of the signposts and guardrails that we can't get to with the mowers.
Yep.
And we've only got the one, but I don't know if you guys, if we advertise more or wait longer, we're gonna not fulfill the grow season. And so we're probably talking about $800 or something spending on getting this done if we hire somebody right now, or is that you're thinking?
I'm thinking if we have someone who's willing to do it, let's just go ahead and get it done. I mean, we could put out applications out there and not get anybody and prolong it for another month and then take a chance of not getting it done.
So we'll cap it at 40 hours for the entire hiring.
Well, 40 hours, get all of it done.
I did it one year in 33 hours. Well, my son helped me some nights, but it was 33 hours.
So you think 40 out of...
Well, yeah, 40 would be close for if it's one person.
Yeah.
So, was it like 30 times 2?
Well, he didn't work every day. I mean, he didn't help me every night, but he did it, you know. Well, you saw me one night over on, I'm gonna say 90% of it I did myself, so.
Well, do we want to go to 50 hours, or we think...
I'd cap it at 50 hours.
Okay, then...
And if we don't use it, great.
Right.
But then it'll at least give us a buffer, because this person may not work as fast as Donnie did.
Right, and after 50 hours, if they haven't accomplished everything we thought, we're still...
We don't want them anymore.
Yeah, we at least got... Yeah. No.
How do you spell his last name?
J.
Oh, Jadon.
Are we going with that?
Oh, yeah, and that would be at $20 an hour for...
Not to exceed.
Not to exceed. So that would put us at $1,000 for the project as opposed to...
Yep.
So we're
What's that?
20 an hour?
What's that? And if somebody has a spot that we couldn't get with the mowing machine, let us know, so we know where to send them. Donnie knows most of the spots, so.
Yeah, I do.
That sign just past our house, it's a curve sign. Remember I said it's sinking? It's sinking more. I cleaned the weeds off it today, so you can see it now.
You cleaned the
over the sign.
You cleaned the weeds off it?
Well, yeah.
Did you say?
Well,
I didn't hear what you cleaned off it.
There was weeds or vines or something.
But you think it's sinking still?
Oh, it is.
Is it
It's below me now, and it used to be taller than me.
And that's the one just north of you between Suzanne's and...
Yeah, that used to be taller than me, now it just keeps going down.
Going to China.
It is. And I looked over today and the weeds are growing up over the sign. So I took them all off, but it's, every time it rains, it sinks some more.
Curve sign.
I mean,
Yeah, I gotta
I
look
don't
at
know why
that.
there's one there.
Anyway, so...
Okay. So, do we have a motion? Did you record a motion?
No, I was just talking about it.
Okay.
I'll make a motion that we hire
Desjardins.
Jake Desjardins as a temporary weed eater operator for up to a maximum of 50 hours at a rate of $20 an hour.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. Any other discussion? All those in favor of the motion, please say aye.
Aye.
Okay, motion is carried unanimously. Any other new business?
Can I just piggyback something on to Tommy's weed whacking thing? Brush cutting. On the back roads, some of the brush is kind of out of hand. I don't know if that's something you want to look at. That can be done probably any time of year. I don't know. But there's some places, Little Village Road is a good example. There's some places where the brush is, if you go down through with a truck of any size, I mean, it's whacking your mirrors and your doors and stuff. And it's a visibility problem.
Yeah.
So, that's it.
And you're never gonna, you could hire somebody to cut brush.
Oh, full-time.
You could never get caught.
Oh, no.
Believe me.
Yeah, and we are kinda headed down that way,
I figured
because
probably-
Parish Hill was like our big goal of the spring, and, because Parish Hill getting it, so it's a lot safer than it is, so you guys aren't sliding down it because it can't be maintained, I mean, the money's there, the grant money's there,
Right.
so that project is all coming to fruition. So that, we are gonna cut brush down around that way as well.
Yeah.
So I'll make sure that we do some on those back roads, but
Yeah,
like Donnie said,
you could cut it all your own.
yeah, it's quite a, and what we're hoping is with the mowing machine now, once we get some of it cut back, we can keep it down.
Right.
So it's an ongoing goal that hopefully in the next 3 years that you actually see the brush coming away from you instead of growing in on you.
That would be good.
Yeah.
And it's all the lesser used, for lack of a better term, roads, you don't have as much traffic.
See, a little thing, blacktop, you want no canopy, because to get it to last, you want sun,
Right.
because it holds the moisture. Your back roads, all your dirt roads, you actually want to keep canopy if you can,
Well, I
because
understand.
so there's that fine line between canopy and snapping your mirrors,
Yeah.
and so I mean, it really, in the dirt road world, it saves on chloride, it saves on grating, it just saves on so much if we can keep a little bit of canopy. So it hasn't always been a priority, but anything that breaks mirrors and stuff is
Well, if I
is
put
a,
windows down, I get smacked in the face because I'm,
yeah, no, and those are the ones that need to come out. But I know a lot of people think that, wow, these dirt roads are really covered up, but really it saves
it's
us
not that.
a lot keeping
it's the
the
stuff.
vegetation,
Yeah.
keeping it nice and moist in there. But the blacktop is just the opposite. We like to spend our money opening that, because if you leave that way, it's just gonna basically deteriorate faster, so.
No, I get it.
And with the lack of farms in town, you don't have the hay wagon
There you go.
smashing the branches,
Yeah.
keeping
They
the roads
used to
open.
do that for us, so you could just run them around.
Yeah.
You don't have the cows chewing down on the sides of the road anymore either. And
Well,
everything
I
is-
understand back in the
Yeah.
day,
Yeah.
before I was around, or even you, Tom, and we're the same age, the landowners maintained their
Right.
roadside frontage. If there was brush on your property that was roadside frontage, the landowner took it down. The landowner maintained it. And a lot of landowners do that. Tim will go down and cut, stuff. But, I mean, for the road, it's not feasible, and not all the landowners are now capable of that.
No, I mean, we maintain our whole road.
Oh, I know. That's because you're special.
Hostley does a nice job.
Yeah, no, he's been doing a heck of a job.
Oh, yeah.
Seems though other farmers would jump right on board and do more acreage around there.
You would think so, but, we can only run the cutter bar so far before the gauge breaks.
So just get your hay wagons out and run them over and knock them down,
Try, but.
Okay, is there any other new business?
I have a question.
Yes.
It was brought to my attention on the portable fuel tank.
Oh, yes.
You were gonna get a price on
I
one?
did get some prices, but it was also brought to my attention that they need to be able to move the lights around. And they
We
were
need a trailer as
wondering
well.
a trailer and a tank.
The one that we borrowed from Jody for 6 months is a good size one. Yeah, no, if you wanna get us prices for that, we could definitely.
Okay,
Get-
I will look
get-
into what Jody's trailer was
Because that we could put the fuel tank and the lights on, and the lights we're talking about are the aphids, which are
Caravan.
which are the stoplights that we use when we're cutting brush.
Oh, yeah.
Yep, on there, I mean, you can look at a couple different trailer ideas. I know a couple different tanks that I looked at, they actually make a 75 gallon with an attached toolbox where they could carry some, you know, some small hand tools or even oils or anything like that.
Right, that's, yeah, that makes sense.
That
Yeah,
way
because they really don't need transfer more than 75 gallon, because the only thing would be the excavator and the mowing tractor.
Right. And with the toolbox, you could throw a deep cycle in it and you wouldn't have to worry about, you know, running jumpers to run the pump.
Right.
And just plug the trailer into a trickle charger and the battery would be charged up all the time.
Yeah, we do need a trailer and we do need a fuel pump.
Well, I will look into that. And how do you want to do that?
Because by the time you get a price, it's gonna be it'll
Yeah.
go up again. You'll come to the board with it. What do you guys wanna, how do you wanna do it? I mean, we probably should get at least a few prices, because
Yep.
it's gonna go over our number.
Right.
The fuel tank, we probably could do just as,
Yeah.
because that's gonna be a $600 tank.
Yeah, I think the one with the toolbox was like 1,000.
And that sounds about right, because that's what Elisha was looking at originally, was one of those. And that's without a pump.
And we
Well, and
got
you
a
have the
pump.
pump.
We have the
Right.
pump.
Oh, we have one?
Yes.
Yeah, we have a pump and
Because we had in the old leaky,
it was
Mack saddle tank that everybody got from Donnie Door years ago.
Yeah.
So we have the pump, it's just leaky tank, I don't know, cost of fuel, letting it drip all over. I mean, I guess we could make the motion to buy the transfer tank, because we do need it. I mean, it's gonna save Randy running back and forth, when he's trying to mow on that side to come back.
Then it's gonna bring us up to OSHA standards.
Yeah.
What
Instead of finding
size
all
was
cans.
Jody's trailer? Do you know any? Was it single
Brad,
axle?
do you know?
Is it single what?
Was it
Single axle, but it was probably what, a 6x10, 6x12?
10, I believe.
6x10. All right. And that worked for the lights.
That worked real well for the lights, and I think there's plenty of room to put the fuel tank on there
Right
too, if
up
they
in the
wanted to
front,
bring that
still
with
have
it.
enough. Okay.
Yeah.
So a motion with a not to exceed price probably would be in order.
Yeah, I'll make a motion that, Ken purchases a, fuel tank, the one with the, or do you wanna just give us the price and we'll, do you have the number and we can?
I do, I took a picture of it and I don't know. Yeah, now I gotta try to find it.
I have
How about not to exceed $1,000?
For the, all right, here we go.
Tractor Supply, I think, had some kind of.
Yeah, 75 gallon combo tank was $1,099.
$1,099.
Yeah, lockable cap, fully welded bracket.
And that's through
That was Tractor Supply.
Tractor Supply. I'll make the motion that, and you could have Jen just purchase it with the credit card if,
Okay.
this is all we gotta do. I'll make the motion that you purchase that tank that you just described for $1,099.
I'll second it.
Any other discussion? All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried unanimously. Did you get that, Drea?
Sure.
And what about the trailer?
I have the price.
Well, I'll make some calls tomorrow and see what the trailer
Yeah,
costs
see, I think the
are.
trailer, we're probably gonna have to get a couple quotes on.
Okay.
Because,
Because Jody got that one for $1,000.
oh, he did.
You gotta see if they're on sale, and I know Tractor Supply had a sale going on. They still do.
Oh, I know what you're talking about.
What would you,
Yeah, the transfer.
it's like, you know, not to exceed 1,500 or 2,000.
That way we can get it done this meeting and not have to drag it
Have a
on.
special meeting or on a
No.
Saturday morning.
No.
They're mumbling over any motion.
What do we want to spend on trailer? Up to 1,500, gonna cover it?
I haven't looked at trailer prices in ever, so in quite some time.
Yeah, 'cause that one's probably
I think they're
3.
more, the single axles are more than that now.
Are they?
Yeah, like they're closer to 2.
We'll be okay if we have it for next meeting. The tank will make out if we can do that, because
Okay.
that'll save them transfer. I mean, because we can throw that in the 1-ton.
Yeah.
And get that back and forth so we can fuel the tractor, in the excavator when we're ditching.
Yeah.
But, the trailers, why don't you
Yeah, I'll get prices. on
get prices and then we'll just get the exact amount for.
Okay. Any other new business? In the absence of Michael Powers, would someone care to make a motion to adjourn?
I'll make the motion, we adjourn.
I'll second it.
Motion is made and seconded. There's no discussion on it. All in favor?
Aye.
I'll
Motion carried at 9:12.